Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Gear Up for Registration. I hope all of our new incoming international students are really excited about joining the Gendall School in January of 2024. But before that time arrives, we've got to get you registered for classes. And that is what this webinar is all about today. I'm Dr. Monica Powell. I'm the Senior Associate Dean and Graduate Dean here at the Gendall School. And we realize when you're going to a new school, sometimes how you register for classes can be a little bit confusing and a little bit overwhelming. But here is the good news. The good news is that you register yourself. You don't have to have somebody here help or assist you with that process. So that's what we're here to talk about today. And I'm delighted to have with me Corina Cantua. She is our director of our Gendall School advising operation. Advising is the label for the group that helps students with managing their degree as they move through the curriculum, getting them enrolled in classes, helping them with holds, understanding what prerequisite is required, making sure that you file for graduation or that you apply for a certificate, making sure that you follow all of the academic registration and course registration requirements. So maybe we should get this started and find out just how this is going to work for all of our new incoming students. So Norma, you want to move us on to the next slide? So Corina, this is probably the most important document that a student will need to print out for their entire time that they're here at the University of Texas at Dallas. So why don't you take it away and launch the discussion around the academic calendar. And if you don't say 4 times that they need to print it every semester, I'm going to come back and tell them 4 times that they need to print it for every semester. So Corina, take it away.
All right. Good morning. Print it, print it, print it, print it. There you go. All right. So good morning. Thank you for joining us. So as Dr. Powell mentioned, the academic calendar is going to be one of those things that's very important for registration. And that's what we're doing today. We're going to show you the ropes, kind of show you what the things are that you need to take a look at, become familiar with. These are items that are not only impacting you within your first semester. Once you learn how to do this, this is going to impact you every time that you register. So just, spend the time with us learning just what those items are. And then don't worry, go ahead and take some time after you watch this to kind of get even more familiar with it. But yeah, our first item will always be the academic calendar. And Norma helped us pull it up there. It's basically available to you every semester. Right now, if you go to the academic calendar page, you may see the one for fall 23, which is what semester we're currently in. But if you scroll down to the bottom of that page, you're going to be able to see future semester, which includes the spring 2024. And that's the one that affects us today because that's the semester we're planning for. So when you go to spring 2024, it's going to pull these 2 pages. On the left-hand side, you can see that it consists of 2 pages. That first page is always going to be deadlines. So for spring 24, it lets you know when your class is going to begin. It lets you know when registration begins, which is that second block on the left-hand side. It points to October 23rd. That's not that far away. That means that on October 23rd, the schedule will go live. That is what's going to outline what classes are available for that semester. And it's going to help you start planning. It also lets you know about your enrollment date or appointment. And I'm going to explain that here in a little bit, but just be aware that the academic calendar has a lot of deadlines. So every semester you should print it. If you don't want to print it, bookmark it, screenshot it, whatever it is that you need to do to make sure that you keep it handy. Now, if you scroll down to page 2, Norma, we're going to see what page 2 is about, and that is about tuition and payment. So this is going to have payment deadlines. That's also something that's important for you to be familiar with as you plan for registration each semester. Now, what's handy about this academic calendar is that every semester it looks the same. The setup is the same. So again, you're not going to have to learn something new every semester that you want to register. You just have to be familiar with the academic calendar, then look at it every time that you want to register in your classes. All right, so that's the important thing. Take some time to look at the academic calendar. Now, if we go back to our slides, we're going to get started with some other things that are important for registration. On the next slide. So here is what we call, these are the things that you have to know before you start registering. Because one of the main questions that you have is, what do I register in, right? This is my first semester. I know I'm going into this master's program, but what do I do? So one of our recommendations is for you to review the catalog. And if you just go to catalog.utdallas.edu, you will land in the catalog, go to your specific program, and take a look at the classes that you're required to take. That's going to be the best resource, as that's what we all follow. When we work with you, when your program works with you on your degree, it's all going to be based on what is in the catalog. One of those classes that is in the catalog is MAS 612, which is professional development. That is a class that you are required to take within your first semester. So you already know one of the classes that you're going to throw into the mix in your first semester is going to be this MAS 612. So you got one down. Then the rest are going to be some that you pick from your degree itself. Another thing that you'll notice in the catalog is your GPA. From the start, it is important for you to understand that the GPA that's required for your core, so anything that's labeled core in your degree requirements, and then your overall, which are all the classes that you take, has to be a 3.0. If you do not maintain that 3.0 GPA, it may mean that you're not able to continue in the program. So just keep that in mind as you go into the program, that you want to make sure you keep that average. All right. And then the other thing that we're going to do within your first semester is our office is actually going to prepare what's called a degree plan. And all that is going to be a chart of classes, of core and overall electives. Everything that matches your catalog is going to be in that degree plan. And that's just going to help you plan for classes. It's not available this first semester, but once you start your first semester, it will be, so that you can start keeping classes, track of classes, because that's when you're going to start, taking your classes, and you're going to start marking them off, putting your grades, making sure that everything looks as it should. But for right now, just know that the degree plan is going to match the catalog, so the catalog is going to be your best resource. Now, the other thing that's going to be important, and this is going to start happening, and probably was already happening as you were an applicant, is that we send you emails, we send you communications, we invite you to webinars just like this one, where we provide information. Our goal is to make sure that we give you all the information that is needed for you to be successful, but you do have to make sure that you're checking your UTD email. That is going to become one of the vital places that we provide information, or where we send invitations to. And so make sure that you look at it so that you're aware of these resources, because beyond the catalog, beyond any emails that we may send you, we invite you to webinars where you can find even more information. Okay, so please start being aware, start checking. Do not let it pile up and become an overwhelming item. All right, now let's go to the next slide, because we're going to start showing you what you actually need to do in order to register. So you have the catalog, you know what classes you're looking into, you know the academic calendar, it's all gearing up. So now the next step is to actually start looking into the system and start learning how you're going to actually register in your classes. The good thing that is that you're actually going to go into the Galaxy, which is the same system that you use when you were an applicant, and you're going to use the same login information, which is NetID and password. It should not change. It should be the same thing. But if you do struggle when you try to do NetID and password to go back into Galaxy, please feel free to touch base with our OIT help desk. That's a university level help desk. They're very familiar with Galaxy. They're very familiar with troubleshooting any technical difficulties. So go ahead and try to log in. Again, I don't expect that you'll have any issue, but if you do, go ahead and sort it out, because you want to make sure you have access to the system in preparation for registration. Now, once you log into the system, and we go into the next slide, you're going to see tiles just like you did in your application system. But one thing I do want to mention is that when you log into Galaxy, it may default to your applicant center. So make sure that when you log into Galaxy, you actually change it to your UTD student center. And so that way you see the different tiles that are related now to you as a current student, and they're going to look just like these. Now, it's several tiles, so we're not going to cover all the tiles right now, but you should log in and just click around, right? It doesn't hurt, just click around so that you can find what information is under each of those tiles. And then if you need it, you probably will say, oh yeah, I think I saw that on this other tile. So you can go in and take a look at it. But for today, we're just going to cover two of the most important tiles that are related to registration. And the first one, if we go to the next slide, is the tasks tile. So the tasks tile is that, right? Do you have any tasks that you need to take care of. This may include an activity that is assigned to you to take care of, or a hold. A hold is usually there's an action item that you need to resolve before that hold is released. If you log in right now, you probably maybe will see a hold for transcripts. Now that you're an official student at UTD and you're starting, you may start seeing that your official document hold goes live. It actually does not prevent registration in your first semester. It's really not going to impact you until later, but that may be one of the things that when you log in that you see. I do want to encourage you to go ahead to submit your official documents now if you haven't already. That way you start checking off those items that you need to take care of as a new student, and you get that off your list. If you are able, go ahead and send us your official documents now. Now, another hold that may be there that we believe we have released and you should not see it is a hold that tells you to speak with an advisor before you register. You should not see that, but if you do, just let us know, send us a quick email, and we'll make sure that we take care of that. We are going to release that hold so that you do not have that block for your registration. Now, as you move forward, maybe you take care of your holds now. As you move forward as a student, please always come back to this tasks tile to make sure that there's nothing missing. You would be able to see when you look at the tile, just like that screen shows, it has like one to do, one hold. It tells you if there's something there. So if you do see it in red and you see it there, please go ahead and visit this tile to make sure that you're taking care of those items so they do not become holds and that they do not prevent registration. All right, now let's go to the next tile, which is on the next slide. Now, this is a pretty important tile. This is manage my classes. A lot of your registration activity is going to happen through this tile. So you see a very long list on the right-hand side, such as your schedule planner, add, swap, drop classes, class search. So there's a lot of information here where, again, you may feel a little bit overwhelmed. There's a lot of you have to learn, but please don't worry. We do have videos available on our website. If you go again to the School of Management page, if you visit our advising page, you'll see a registration section, and we put little short videos for you to watch. You don't have to watch them all at the same time. You can, if you have 5 minutes, you can do 5 minutes. Maybe later on you do 10 minutes, but just look at those videos. You will become familiar. It's not a very challenging. Thanks, Norma. Yeah, advising, and then there's a registration link right there. And if you scroll down, we even outline it in the sequence that we recommend, right? How do you prepare for registration? This is step 1. And not surprisingly, we talk about the academic calendar, check your enrollment date, which is one thing I'm going to mention shortly, your holds, which is what I mentioned through the academic tasks tile, how to update your degree plan, how to search for classes. And then the last one is planning, right? What are you going to register in? But each of those sections, as you saw, has a video link to it. So go ahead and watch it. Again, they're short. We try to keep them short for you. And once you do it, once you learn how to do it one time, it's going to be the same thing moving forward. So it's going to be okay. Now, I mentioned that enrollment date and time. Now that on this tile, you'll see that it's listed as view enrollment appointment, but it's important to know that it's actually not an appointment. It is not a time that you have to meet with anybody. All it is just a day and time when you actually can start registering in your classes. So before that day and time, you're not going to be able to add any classes or enroll in anything. But once that day and time hits, then you can register. Now, it doesn't mean that you wait until that day and time to start planning. We are actually here with you today because we want to be proactive about when you start actually planning for your classes. The schedule go live next Monday. You can log into your system today and try to make sure that everything's good to go. You start planning now. That way, once your enrollment day and time comes, then what you're doing is just adding your courses. You already have them ready. You're just going to go in there and actually enroll. Now, I do want to mention one last thing related to this is that you want to make sure that you give yourself some options, right? There may be a class A that you really, really want to have, but maybe when you go and register, it doesn't really work with your schedule. Make sure you have something else available to you as well. So don't make it so you only have, these are the 3 classes plus my professional development. This is all that I'm going to do. Go ahead and make that your ideal schedule, but then add some other classes as other options, right? Some things may happen, you may have to rearrange. So do some research beyond just 3 classes so that you're ready in case you need to make any tweaks the day of the registration. All right, now we're going to go to the next slide, because now what I'm going to give you is just some thoughts that are important to you every semester that you register, okay? I mentioned earlier about your emails. That's going to become vital. This is our main point of communication with you. Please make sure that you're checking your UTD email, because we're going to try to give you a lot of information, be as helpful as possible, but it does require that you maintain your UTD email so that you don't miss that important email that you needed. Now, the other thing is I'm going to mention your UTD ID and your net ID, right? Those are two IDs that identify you as a student here at UTD. The UTD ID is the one that starts with 20. It only has numbers. It does not have any letters. Please make sure just to keep that secure, keep it safe. Do not share it with anybody, actually, and do not even share it with us via your email. We don't need it to identify you. We do not need your UTD ID. Just keep it as your own ID. If you do want to identify yourself somehow when you email us, is you can use your net ID. That's the one that has the letters followed by numbers. That we can use, and that you can share with us. Now, you cannot send an email to us via your Gmail account and include your net ID and have that be something we can work with. We're not actually able to communicate with you via your Gmail or your external email anymore. Even if you use your net ID to identify yourself, we still need you to communicate with us using your UTD email. So please make sure to remember that. And then, as I mentioned, and Norma pulled it up a little while ago for us, is go to that registration page. Go ahead and take a look at those videos. That is what's going to be the most helpful in getting to know the system, getting you prepped and comfortable. I want to make sure that you feel comfortable as you go into registration, and don't feel overwhelmed. A lot of that information is there. We're going to help you with that. And then now we're going to move on to Dr. Powell, because she's going to mention something else that's also going to be very useful to you in your first semester.
Well, thank you, Corina. I want to tell students a couple of things before we get to the program-specific webinars. Number one, this is a lot of information, and we deliver that information in about 15 minutes worth of time. It's going to be really, really important for you to go back and watch this recorded webinar several times, because to be able to internalize it and digest it and remember it is a little bit challenging. It doesn't take very many times of repeating the process as a student before you get it. But when you're a brand new student, you really want to go back and hear what Corina said, because there were a lot of really important nuggets in there. Academic calendar is critical. It drives every deadline. Students can't say, I didn't know, or I didn't read the email. It is the responsibility of a student, especially a graduate student, to be able to manage their academic journey. So you're going to be held responsible for knowing the deadlines, for knowing when things have to happen. And the response, I didn't know, or I didn't read my email, isn't going to count. You're still going to be held to those deadlines. So please keep that in mind. Students will periodically find, those holds on their account, and holds will keep you from registering, from getting the courses that you want. So you also want to be ahead of schedule and making sure that any holds that are there, you have resolved. And if you just click on the holds, you can see who put the hold there. Was it the bursar's office that put it there? Was it the registrar? Was it the health center? So you want to be very proactive. Waiting to the last minute only frustrates you as a student. And I think the very last thing that I would say is that, this is one of those grow up moments. You've been an undergraduate student at another institution. Maybe you've been out in the workforce for a long time and have a lot of experience. And suddenly you're coming back into academia where you're in charge. And that means that you've got to kind of do the grow up moment of really paying attention. The primary means for which the university and the Jindal School and your program directors and your faculty communicate with you is through email. And I know that for young people who are really comfortable with very short cryptic texts, that reading email is a burden, and young people don't like to do that. But that is going to be priority. That's true regardless of the school you go to. And that's going to be true of the employers that you eventually get an internship with and work for. Their primary means of communicating with you is going to be through email. And so communicating through UT Dallas email is critical. We are not even allowed to pay attention to an email that comes from Yahoo or Gmail or Hotmail or AT&T. We have to know that we're dealing with the student we're dealing with and that it isn't an imposter. So it's part of our risk management perspective. So again, go back and rewatch what Corina has said, watch it several times. And the one final thing that I want to put a flashing light on is that you want to be very, very careful that when you put courses into your cart, that does not mean that you have completed registration. Students often make that mistake and think, oh, well, if I put the course in my cart, then I'm in that course. There's another step in there. So be sure that you complete the entire registration process. Now, Corina has delivered the information at a very high level. This is how you do it. This is where you go. This is the screens you look for. These are the tiles you look for. This is the process and procedure. But what do you enroll in? What are the classes that you need to be in? As an applicant to our school, you've probably heard us talk about core classes and elective classes. Core classes are required. Every degree program, graduate degree program, has core classes, and every degree program has electives. Some of those core classes are prerequisites for other classes. So you're going to want to spend time looking at the courses that are prerequisites, making sure that you have them. There are sometimes classes where you can co-requisite. It means you can take the prerequisite and that class at the same time. The only way that you can figure that out is to look at the catalog, look at course book. You'll be able to see what the course requirements are and to make sure that you have them. And then I guess one final thing that I'm going to pop onto is that there are going to be students that come into our programs that are going to want to waive classes. If you're coming into an MS program, a Master's of Science program, 36 credit hour program, you can transfer in 9 credit hours. If you're coming into an MBA, you can transfer in 12 credit hours. You want to do this in the first semester of the program. You don't want to wait in doing that. And it takes time to process those waiver forms. And thank you, Norma, for putting that on the screen, because there's a process to follow, a form to complete. You need to make sure you have a transcript, a syllabus, all of these things so that those decisions can be made. So you can't assume that things are going to be waived as you come into your first semester. You want to make sure you're taking care of that. And then finally, just remember the important thing that Corina said about staying in good academic standing. When you graduate, you're required to have 2 different GPAs that are both above a 3.0 or above. That is the core classes, that handful of classes that every student has to take, and then also the overall GPA. So please keep that in mind. You can't have a core GPA that's below a 3.0 and then have an overall above and say, well, I'm going to be fine. No, it has to be both. So please be mindful of that. So what courses do you take? Well, you look at the screen that you see right there in front of you, and you can see that all of the specific programs have instructions there where they are conducting a live webinar for MS in Accounting, Business Analytics Flex, the Finance Flex, the Healthcare Leadership, the ITM, Management Science, Marketing, and Supply Chain. Those programs are having a dedicated time when they're going to be talking to new students about, hey, these are the classes you should take. These are the sections that you should look for. These are the ones that you should start with because they're prerequisites to other classes you want to take later. So you will want to attend these. These will also be recorded and put out on a page for you to look at and review, just like this webinar is going to be put out there for you to have an opportunity to view. If you notice, there are a handful of programs that say contact the program so that you can set up a one-on-one to go through what you really should be taking in your first semester. I can't emphasize enough that it is on the student's responsibility list to know your degree plan, know and have visited the catalog, know what are the core courses, know what are prerequisites, know what your elective options are. Think about the courses that you might want to do a concentration in. You want to begin with the end in mind. You're getting this degree so that you can launch perhaps a completely different career. You want to know what kind of job you want in the end, and that's going to drive the kind of courses you want to take while you're here in the Gendall School. So all of this is a little bit overwhelming. It's a little bit scary, but we have an army of people that can help you get through this. The entire advising operation that Corina manages, there's a whole host of advisors who you can meet with. You can go to the advising lab. There are lots of ways to get technical answers to registration questions. But if you have questions about what should I take, what courses are most applicable to this career direction, then you need to go to your program leadership, your program director, your program support people. They have all kinds of events where they bring in current students, they bring in alumni, they bring in industry people that talk about the necessity of taking certain courses to be qualified for jobs. So there's lots of people around here to help you, and we're here to do that. And I am betting that this morning there are a lot of you that probably have questions that you've put into chat, and I want to make Corina and myself available to answer all of those questions. So Corina, Norma, Angela, let's see what kind of questions we have.
So the first question we have has to do with the MAS 6102 course, the professional development course. This person is asking, do I have to take it in my first semester? And what are the consequences if I don't take it in my first semester?
That is a great question. So thank you for the new incoming student that asked that question. Yes, it is required in your first 12 hours that you've completed. And if you look at the catalog, it will tell you that. So that means you need to take it your first semester. The reason that you want to take it in the first semester is that you want to have everything completed and done so you can start the process of making applications for internships. As a new incoming student in spring, there are a couple of rules around internships. Number one rule is you have to successfully completed MAS 6102. That's where we make sure that your resume is ready, that your interviewing skills are ready, that you are on top of how to network in America, how you engage with alumni. We do a lot of really critically important career end kinds of activities in that course in your first semester to help you. So that's one thing you have to have done. You have to have completed successfully MAS 6102. The second thing that you will have had to have done is you will have had to complete 2 long semesters. A long semester is a fall or a spring. So that means you will have had to complete spring 2024 and fall 2024 to be eligible for internships in spring of 2025. So that may mean you want to take a couple of classes in the summer as opposed to just taking the summer off. International students are not required to enroll in the summer, but it is an option if you want to get a class underneath your belt. So great question. Thank you for shooting that out at the very beginning.
The next question, this person has logged in to Galaxy and they've gotten into the Manage My Classes tab. This person is asking, does the schedule planner allow us to draft up different options for our schedule in the first semester? Does the function show the accurate dates and times the classes will be available?
So I can answer the second part of that question. I'm going to let Corina answer the first part of that question. So yes, that is that schedule is pulling from our exact schedule, and that means that the classes, the date, the time in which they are offered, those are correct times and offerings. There's a couple of things I might point out before I pop it over to Corina to answer the first part of your question, is that there are several different modalities of classes. So I want to explain, as a new incoming student, international, you can only take one online class. Can't take 2, can't take 3, only can take 1. Now, an online class is either a synchronous class, or it's an asynchronous class, or it's, I guess, a hybrid class. Corina, do we count a hybrid class as an online?
I believe so. I'm going to pull up the website to confirm, Dr. Powell.
Yeah. So the thing that I want to point out between a synchronous and an asynchronous class, so a synchronous class means that when you look at the schedule, it's going to have a section code that has a W in it. So you're going to know that that is an online class. If it's FIN 6301 OW1, that's going to tell you that is an online class if there's a W in the section code. If it is a synchronous class, that means that it is meeting at a specific time on a specific day of the week, and that is live virtual class where you're required to have your camera on and attend live. If it is an asynchronous class, there will be no date, no time, and that is a class that is completed completely according to the schedule on the syllabus, and there are no live experiences associated with that class. So I just wanted to throw that out. Now, Corina, can they put in multiple schedule options when they are working in the planner?
Yes. And before I jump into that, I just want to confirm there is a page that students can use with the information on enrollment requirements based on their visa. And I actually just pulled that up and I double checked, and the hybrid is included as an online class. So that's one of those that you want to be careful of how many you add. But if you go to that page, just like everything else, it's a helpful resource. It has a lot of details on there. Go ahead and go through that so that you can double check any questions related to your enrollment requirements based on your visa. Now to go back to the schedule planner. So what schedule planner is actually is a tool that is going to create multiple types of schedules for you without you having to figure out what day do I want to take this class, what day do I want to take this class. You actually choose the classes that you want to register for that semester and you hit schedule, and it just performs all these different schedules that are possible for you based on those classes. It gives you sometimes a lot of scenarios of what you could choose. You kind of go through them and you choose which one is the one that you like the most. There's a way for you to lock in a class. If you know for sure you want to take this class on this Monday at this time, you can lock that in, and then the remaining schedule options are going to be based off of that thing that you've affirmed. There's a video, there's a lot of details on how you schedule planner, but yes, it's a tool that helps you just have a lot of options as far as, maybe not a lot, right? It's going to depend on how many classes you are loading there to see what you take in the semester, but it gives you the flexibility. It does a lot of the thinking of the different options for you. So it absolutely does. It helps you kind of have a variety of options for your semester.
Thank you very much. The next question has to do with enrollment. Dr. Powell, as an international student, an F-1 international student, what are the minimum number of classes or credit hours that they need to take? But also, we have a couple people who are interested in applying for fall scholarship. So they're wondering how many hours they need to take in the spring to be eligible to apply for fall scholarship.
Oh, great questions. So as an F-1 student, you are required to enroll in a minimum of 9 credit hours. That's 3 classes. But in your first semester, that would be 10 because you're adding on the MAS 6102 professional development class. But your minimum is 9 credit hours. Now, if you want to come in the spring and you want to enroll, take classes in spring of 24, and you also want to apply for a fall 2024 continuing student scholarship, you would need to have been enrolled in 12 credit hours and complete all 12 credit hours. It's really competitive, but we have a lot of great students who end up applying for continuing student scholarships in the fall after starting in the spring.
This person is asking about the limitations on the classes as far as how many people can enroll in the classes. And they're asking, does the class have a limited amount of slots? For example, if 20 students have signed up, no more students can.
Oh, that's a really great question. So generally speaking, our class size ranges from, on the high side from 50 to 70, generally speaking. We have a lot of classrooms that don't seat more than 70 or 75 students. So yes, classes do have limits based on the caps that have been put on by the administration. We will run a few classes that have 20 students in them, but there's room for 50 students in that class. But we might run it with only 20 students in that class. But yes, there are class caps on there, but we don't do classes with 100 students in them. That is not a typical situation. It has occurred in years past, but occasionally, but it's just not something that we do because our classrooms don't accommodate that. And our online classes are generally limited to 50.
Speaking about enrollment, this person is asking, what is the maximum credit hours an international student can take in a semester? And my part of that question is, do you advise reaching that maximum?
That is, your part of the question is probably the most important. So let me first just lay it out there as to why a student would want to take the maximum number of hours in a semester. Economically, financially, it's a really good move. The more credit hours you take, the lower cost per credit hour you pay. Now, the maximum number of hours that you can enroll in right now and before we get really close to the spring semester is 13. And the reason that we do that is that we want to make sure that we don't have students that go and enroll in a whole bunch of classes and then want to shop and attend all those classes and then drop 2 of the classes, which keeps other students from getting into those classes. So you can see right there, fall and spring, 13 enrolled credit hours is the maximum. Now, when we get right up to the beginning of the semester, when we remove all wait lists, a student can enroll in more. But to Norma's question, you do not want to do that, and you want to get approval to do that. The reason that you don't want to do that, folks, is this is graduate school. This is an undergraduate school where you could take 5 classes at a time. You're spending a big chunk of hours outside of class for every 1 hour you're in class. And when students have insisted on doing that, they generally at the end come and see me and say, Dr. Powell, you were so right. I should have never done that because it is hard. So you'll be cutting off your nose to spite your face. You may be saving a little bit of money, but you may put your GPA and your academic standing in peril. And you may be so busy that you don't have time to get involved in student organizations where you're meeting alumni and employers. You don't have time to look for internships, which means you won't have one. So it is not the wise approach. I can tell you the bulk of our international students are with us for 21 months. That means that they're going through 4 long semesters, taking 10 hours the first semester and 9 credit hours the other semesters, and they're doing an internship. If you're coming into a degree program where an internship is required, you can do your first internship in that program for 0 credits, and so you don't have to pay for that internship class.
Our next question has to do with swapping classes. This person is asking, can they swap classes after Census Day? And then I saw another question asking what Census Day is. So I was hoping that you could talk about that.
So I'm going to pop that question to Corina or Angela, give them a chance to answer those great questions.
Sure, I can take it. So if you look on the academic calendar, the last day to register is going to be on there. There's a last day of regular registration. That means that it does not contain any late fees. And so for spring 24, you'll see it's January 11th. Thank you, Norma. Now there's a different block right after that is called late registration. And if you see that little explanation below that heading, it does say that you may incur a $100 late registration fee. So if you register within that window of time that goes from January 12th to January 23rd, you may have a late fee, but you can still make changes. That is January 23rd. Now, right below that is Census Day, and it says what it is right in parentheses there, state reporting date. That's when the university reports to the state on enrollment. But that does not mean that you get to register until Census Day. They actually wait until Census Day to report it because registration by then has stopped. Right? January 23rd is the day when it ends, then there's no more registration, so therefore they can report. So there's no registration past late registration. Now, registration starts early, right? We're about to hit registration this coming month, so that means that you have all of pretty much all of November, December, and a lot of weeks in January to make those changes. So you should be ready to make a call on what classes you want to take and enroll. So there's no need, right? And you're following the enrollment requirements. There's a link that was shared to you based on your visa. That link was shared to you. You're following that as well. So there should not be any need to do any additional registration past the late date of registration.
Thank you. That is perfect. I'm going to go back to Dr. Powell about a question about instructors. So some of our incoming students have talked to students who are already here, and they've mentioned how some classes sometimes on the course schedule will say, staff or won't have a professor's name. When do those get assigned, and should they wait until it's assigned to sign up for those classes?
Wow, this is the question I love to hate, but it is a very fair question. It is going to be the case in every university that the seniors that you know that are already here are telling you, oh, you've got to take Professor X because they're easier than Professor Y, or you need to take Professor B because you know, their class is just so cool over Professor C. Let me tell you, when we look at our exit survey data for all of our graduating students, and that's a mandatory requirement in order to graduate, our students tell us the best thing about the Gendall School is all of our faculty. So that means that sometimes as we're moving toward the beginning of a semester, sometimes we know the faculty that are going to be teaching a class, sometimes we don't. When it says staff, that means that the area, the academic area, is still shuffling the faculty around. But a faculty member will be assigned, and that faculty member will do a great job. Sometimes it's the most popular faculty member that ends up being filled into that staff job, and sometimes it's a clinical professor who's coming in that's bringing great industry experience. But I can tell you, it doesn't matter how many students I talk to in the 17 years that I've been here, they all say the same thing when they graduate, that every single faculty member is really focused on the individual success of every student. Yeah, they always take different perspectives. They might cover different cases. They may grade a little bit differently. They might be higher energy or lower energy or more thoughtful or more philosophical, but we have a really great faculty team. So don't focus too much on who is teaching the course, because you're going to have a great experience in that course regardless.
Thank you so much, Dr. Powell. This next question I'm going to ask Corina because it has to do with the schedule planner. So I'll bring Corina onto the screen. This person opened up their schedule planner, but it shows fall 2023. And so they're wondering when they can start to work on the spring 2024 schedule planner and when that will show up.
Sure. So at the beginning of the webinar, we showed you the academic calendar for spring 24, and it had Monday, October 23rd as a day that the schedule planner will be available. So what that means is when you log in today, right, ahead of the 23rd, you will not see any information for spring 24. That spring 24 information is not going to become available until next Monday, October 23rd. If you log in on that day, you will then be able to see spring 24. And then may I tag on just a quick reminder on that? It does not mean that the 23rd is the first day of registration. All that means is that's when the schedule goes live. That's when you can start looking at your enrollment day and time, which is not going to be October 23rd. It's actually probably going to be sometime about 2 weeks after. So nobody's registering. When the schedule goes live on the 23rd, there's actually no registration. It's just gearing up to start, giving you time to plan, giving you time to take a look at your classes, looking for you to look at your enrollment day and time. But there's actually no registration happening until after that date. So please make sure that you don't expect to start registering on the 23rd. That's just where everything gets started.
Great. And while I have you on the screen, Corina, I'm going to ask you another question about official transcripts. So this person got an email about submitting official transcripts. They are wondering if it's okay to turn them in when they arrive in the US, like the first week of school.
Sure. Yeah, you can, if you want to bring them with you, you can actually turn them in. I always recommend that if you are able to send them in before you come, it's better. And the reason for that is you have a lot on your list of things to do as a new student, you know, find where to live, all these things, you know, how to tuition, all these videos that you're going to watch for registration. So it takes something off your list if you go ahead and just send them now. And then it also allows you to, if there's any question about them, or if our admissions team has any questions about them, you're still able to send something extra or answer their question when you're still home and you're able to send the documents. Sometimes if students bring them with them, sometimes there is a question and they cannot resolve it, right, without having to travel, without having to ask somebody else who's at home for help. So it's a lot easier if you just go ahead and take that off your tasks. But if needed, if you want to just bring them with you, you can. That is still a possibility.
Perfect. Thank you. Now we're going to go over to Dr. Powell because I have another question about the professional development course. This person knows that their degree is 36 credit hours. Is that 1 credit hour of professional development included in the 36 credit hours, or is it additional?
It is additional. It's on top of. So you will pay for that particular credit hour as well. It is a pre-programmed course requirement. So it's not within the 36, it's on top of the 36.
We have a incoming student who has gotten to know some of our current students, and they've heard stories about when they're looking in Coursebook that they see the class is open, but then when they go to Orion, it says that the class is full. So they're wondering which one is correct and how they should approach situations like that.
Corina?
Sure. So the everything is based off what's in Orion. That's your galaxy. When you go into Galaxy in your Orion Student Center and you pull the schedule from there, it's going to be what is the most up to date. Coursebook is also a tool that you can use to research classes. It contains information about previous semesters. So if you want to take a look at the syllabus from a previous semester or information on evaluations from a previous semester, Coursebook is going to help you do that. But there's just one little thing about Coursebook is that it's not update automatically. So as students are registering in classes, it's going to update a few times a day. So there may be a time that you log into Coursebook, you see enrollment information, and it may be different from what you see in your Orion Student Center. The Orion Student Center is what's correct. We're just waiting for Coursebook to be updated. So it's not a live link where it updates automatically, but it does routinely get updated throughout the day.
We have a question, Corina, while you're still on the screen, about the payment deadline. This person is asking, what is the difference between the early payment deadline versus the regular payment deadline?
So essentially, anybody who has enrolled by the early payment deadline should pay by the early payment deadline. But if sometimes if you have a scholarship or some students who are local and they have financial aid, there may be an additional time that you have where you don't have to pay by the early payment deadline. But then the regular deadline is for everybody. If anybody who's registered by that date, if you have not made a payment or if you have not set up a payment plan, if you go to the bursar office, who are the ones who oversee tuition and payment, they'll have payment options for you. And so you may have already set up a payment plan or something. As long as you have something going for your payment, then you will not be dropped. But by regular payment, if you have taken no action for payment and you're due, then you should make that payment, or else you may be dropped from your classes. And there's no spot that is saved for you. If you drop and somebody else takes on that spot, there may not be a way to put you back into that class. So be mindful of that date, be mindful of the information on the bursar page so that you know how you individually, right, because it's going to be specific to each person, how you individually are going to set up your payment for that semester so you can avoid being dropped for non-payment.
Thank you so much, Corina. Dr. Powell, our next question has to do with the enrollment assignments. How are enrollment appointments assigned? They've heard stories where students who have been here a little bit longer have a sooner enrollment appointment date, and so they're just worried about not getting the classes they want.
Yeah, so that is a great question. The closer you are to graduation, the earlier your appointment date is. And that's the way it should be, because those students need to get in their required courses based upon their graduation. So they get first choice as you would expect them, or they'll never be able to graduate. So yes, that does affect availability of classes. I think what is really important for students to consider is to look at the degree plan, look at the core class requirements and the elective course requirements, and look at what you want to do and what makes better sense for you. In some of our degree plans, you really want to tackle core first. And there are often times where those are the hard classes, and so students will put off taking core, and that's not a good idea, because then you can, if your GPA is in jeopardy, that can make it difficult if you end up in academic poor standing. So you just want to be mindful that as a new incoming student, you're really in the last group to register, that it goes open. But that's the way that it should be, so that your seniors ahead of you can graduate on time. But folks, we offer so many sections. There is rarely ever the case where there is not a seat for an incoming student in a class that they could take. The challenge tends to be that, oh, well, I really don't want to take that class. But there are plenty of open seats, even for the last group to register. But you want to be smart. You want to do your work ahead of time. You want to have those courses in your cart. You want to know what your secondary plan B options are, so that when your time comes to actually register, you can. And I think Corina covered this, but I want to emphasize it again. An appointment, a registration appointment, enrollment appointment is not an appointment with a person. That is just the time that you are then eligible to enroll yourself. It's not a face-to-face appointment that you're required to have with someone.
Perfect. Our next question has to do with, let's just say a person registers for example, BUAN 6359, but with a professor that they don't exactly prefer. Can they attend the section that's taught by the professor they wanted, even though they're not registered in it?
Nope, they sure cannot. And the reason for that has to do with seats in the classroom. There won't be a place for you to sit. You need to attend the class in which you are enrolled in. You're required to attend the class in which you are enrolled in. So I will tell you, I know personally every single one of our BUAN 6359 and OPRE 6359 instructors. They are all awesome. In fact, this fall, for the first time, we offered a virtual study hall for all of our students that were in that class and in OPRE 6301, all helped and led by a terrific group of students who are doing these sessions. There is lots of help for students who may struggle with that incoming advanced stats class, and all of our instructors do such a great job.
All right, that looks like all the questions that we have so far today.
Wow, well, our students were very efficient, which sends the message to me and Corina that our students are taking charge. They're getting out there, they're reading the catalog, understanding the degree requirements. You've probably already put on your calendar, Norma, put back up those program webinar dates for specific programs. Get those on your calendar. You will be getting notice of that. There will be links that will come to you where you can log in just like you did for this webinar, so you can hear from your program directors about the courses that they are planning for the spring schedule and which ones you should be shooting for in terms of enrollment. You will want to ask oodles and oodles of questions of these individuals about the differences in classes, the differences in concentrations or tracks. If I want to do X, which pathway do I go? They have all of the information that you need. And look, all of these dates are before enrollment appointments, which means that you'll have all of the information you need and be able to have time to do the homework so you're ready when your enrollment appointment opens up. So there's one other person I want to introduce, and I want Norma to put her on the screen. It's Angela Howard. Angela, you want to wave to everybody? So Angela is our assistant director for graduate student advising. She reports to Corina, and she leads a whole team of advisors that all of our students get to know as they move through our program. And again, we have an army of people to help you, whether it's in the advising office or whether it's in your program. We will make sure that you get all of the answers to your questions. Now, do not hesitate to reach out to any of those emails you see on the screen. If you have specific class questions, they will answer those. Most of these programs are answering those questions literally within hours of the time that they get them. So we will be immediately responsive to you if you do have questions. If you are just puzzled, struggling, don't know who to ask the question to, you can always send an email to jendal@utdallas.edu or the JSOM question desk. Either of those will work. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us. I want to thank Corina for being here today to provide all of that information, Angela for backing us up, and Norma for making the magic of webinars happen. We cannot wait to have you on our campus and get to meet all of you. And we know, we stand in awe and amazement of our students who travel all the way around the world to come be a part of the experience here at the Jendal School. And we're so honored that you've chosen us to come here and advance your future. And we're going to take really good care of you while you are here. So please be in touch with us. Don't hesitate to reach out if you've got questions. We're here to help, and we hope you'll be in touch with us soon. So thanks for joining us today. And remember, Go back and watch this webinar several times before you get ready to register. You will save yourself a lot of frustration once you've internalized all the information. So good luck to all of you. Thanks for being with us today.